Hello everyone, thanks for being here. I just wanted to do a collective reading since we are currently sandwiched between two really big eclipses and we just entered Scorpio season. And I think that Scorpio season, specifically at this time, is going to be a catalyst and also a period of time where a lot of big energies are going to be taking center stage and coming to light. And Scorpio energy is really good at this because Scorpios have a way of tapping into the darkness and what is not typically seen, typically spoken about, what can sometimes be contributed to a very taboo or off limits type of energy, and Scorpio energy brings it to light. And once it's brought to light, it's really hard not to see and not to look at. And I think on a collective level this is going to be super prominent, but we're all going to be experiencing it in our own ways. So when what we usually keep in the dark or to ourselves starts to come to light and starts to appear in the physical reality, it can be very intense. And it can create quite a bit of change. It has the potential to be really influential in a positive way that really helps us evolve. It can also be detrimental, especially if we aren't prepared, but more so if we are resistant to it. And so I wanted this reading to kind of guide everyone on this type of energy and what to do with it, because I'm already seeing glimpses of it, and I've already seen it as we've sort of passed through the Libra energy into the Scorpio. So why it's so important to let that Libra energy balance you out is because when Scorpio season comes in, it's good to have a sturdy stance in it all. Because as things are coming to light, and these can be pretty deep things that have been traumatic for us, things that we feel shameful about, guilt, confusion, things that if we looked at it every day, it would make it hard to get through the day. And these energies aren't meant to look at every day, but they do need to be looked at, and it's sort of like now's the time. So when these things are happening, if you aren't balanced and if you don't feel sturdy in yourself, it can be more detrimental than influential in a positive way. So it's good to know what it is that you typically keep in your dark corners within yourself. And to just try to remember that not everything we think is shameful is. And a lot of times we're not alone in what we feel and what we've experienced. And it's really hard to work through something if there is shame involved. And that word is coming up a lot for me because Scorpio energy has a way of looking at things that are typically perceived as shameful and just seeing it as human in the most deep way. You know, we all have so much depth, whether we show it, whether we let others see it or not, whether you wear your heart on your sleeve or you're more reserved. I really think that everyone has this equal potential for depth and the way we store our memories, the way we store our trauma. And so, particularly in this time, but also always, it's really healthy to alchemize your trauma and release it on a physical level. So how to do that is gonna look differently for everyone. But we hold a trauma and we hold sadness and we hold regret as energy in our bodies. And the only way to really get it out is to change it into something else that we can release. So to change it into matter, right? To change an energetic feeling into matter so that we can remove it. The best way to do that is through tears, crying, sweating, sessions where you are exposing yourself to heat and really meditating on or focusing on these more negative energetic feelings and allowing your pores to remove it through your sweat. That's why crying feels so relieving when you really need it. It's because you were finally able to release the energy in some physical way. Screaming, people who are prone to rage or anger, they have to yell because it gets it out of the body. And of course, there are healthy ways to do it and there are not as healthy ways to do it. So of course, I urge everyone to find their healthy way to alchemize the trauma and the negativity and all of that, because Scorpio energy, to me, I often think of butterflies when I think of this energy, but you really are changing form when you go through Scorpionic energy. It has this depth to it where you really have no choice but to dig in and to dig deep and to look and see what you find and figure out what you're going to do about it. So the more we can make room for all of this and the more we can release at this time, it's just going to set everyone up for success. And of course, that's what we want. So as Scorpio energy brings up this deep-seated trauma, it's going to come out in ways that may surprise you, surprise all of us. So I think another note here to mention is to give yourself grace as much as you possibly can. There are going to be times where your emotion comes up and you're not even quite sure how to process it. Because I'm talking like deep-seated emotion here, things that we went through when we were children, things that we went through with previous romantic partners, things that really stuck with us and shaped who we are, how we look at the world, how we make our decisions, like really deep-seated stuff. When it comes up, and if you don't have the proper tools to really process it and move it through your body in a healthy way, it's gonna come up sometimes like word vomit. It's gonna come up sometimes like outbursts, emotional outbursts, things that don't quite make sense to the people around you because they don't understand what you've been through. So the more that you can communicate these things with your romantic partners, your friends, your family, the better. Because when we let people get a glimpse of why we are the way we are and the sometimes shameful or regretful things that we went through that made us this way, it just gives them such a better and more 360 view on who we are and how we got this way. And then the compassion and the empathy can finally come through, because when there's a lot of confusion, it's like, I don't know why you're saying these things. I don't know why this one thing that I said hurt you so much or why you reacted this way. There's going to be a lot of that going on because it's not about the issue at hand. It's about what's much deeper below the surface that's getting triggered and constantly poked because it hasn't been able to release yet. This is what this Scorpio energy is bringing to us. So the importance of therapy in any sense is going to be important, of just finally saying something that you've wanted to say. If you're in a disagreement or an argument and you already know this feeling is coming from a deeper place, I think it's really the time to let people know where it's coming from and how deep it really goes. And the people who you have healthy connections with are going to accept these things and not let it change the way they see you and allow it to connect with you on a deeper level. Those who can't understand or haven't worked through their own stuff where they can support you or at least understand you, it's gonna be tough, but it's gonna be the time to put the boundaries up for those people. And in the Scorpio tarot video that I did specifically for them earlier this month, it was all about the boundary setting. So that's what they're bringing in for everyone. It's like anytime a new season comes in, the signs that you are not necessarily yours, but you're playing with the energy at the moment, they have something to offer you. This is what Scorpio energy is offering you. The moment to really be vulnerable and show your raw and your dark self to people. And those who can't perceive it or are just not able to be there for you in the moment, it's your chance to put up some boundaries and take some space and just reassess where you are with your own healing and who's really helping you get through certain things and who's just embellishing this hurt and not really, almost deepening a wound that's already there. So without even pulling any cards, that is really what I'm feeling, but I do want to pull a few, and I also want to pull something about the lunar eclipse, because I don't know about you all, but after the solar eclipse, I definitely felt that shift in perspective and have been seeing it from peers and things like that, and just sort of showing in my physical realm. So I really do think this lunar eclipse is sort of wrapping whatever awakening that we had with the solar eclipse, it's wrapping things up and it's sort of propelling you in a new direction. So let's see what we have for Scorpio season for everyone. This is for the collective. First card out is Four of Cups. Yeah, there are words on these cards, and this one says withdraw. And it reminds me of a moment that I had earlier this morning when I was sort of meditating on all of this energy and my own things. I was in my meditative state and I wanted to do some of my affirmations. And I realized when I started to do them, I felt a lot of anxiety and tightness in my chest. And there was some things that I really needed to kind of retract and focus on in the moment before I could even call new stuff in, which is typically what affirmations are, is sort of helping you call more of a type of energy in, right? So I went to say in my head, I am something, one of my affirmations. And what came to my mind is I am anxious. And I just had to kind of be real with myself in that moment and think I'm not actually in a space to attract anything. And it's good to know the difference between when it's time to attract and when it's time to retract. So Scorpio season may be more of that retracting energy than attracting. And it's not going to last forever, so it's okay. It's just kind of let it happen. Because when you are in a space of living a little bit too much in the past or having things that aren't quite healed yet, causing you this anxiety and this sort of tension, you won't really have that attractive, magnetic, positive energy flowing out of you so that it can flow back. Because what you're putting out is a more, or I should even speak for myself in that moment, I was just putting out more of an anxious, rigid energy. And so I sort of snapped out of my meditative state and just thought, I really just need to kind of let my emotions flow through me and just kind of think about what's really causing me this anxiety first before I can go in attraction mode. So this card kind of speaks to that energy where there is someone behind him that has a lot to offer, or them, I should say. But they're just not really ready to look yet. And if they did look too soon, they might be blind to the value. So if you're in a space of anxiousness and feeling unresolved or unhealed, it may not be the best time to attract a partner or a new job or something like that, because how you're going to show up to it is really important. So the season feels like a time where you really need to care for yourself as you would care for someone else who really needed you. And it's okay to withdraw, and it is very okay to retract and just sort of let your emotions move through you for a while. And again, like, I feel the need to say it's not gonna last forever. You know, it might be a couple weeks, a few weeks where you're not quite feeling like yourself, and you feel emotional, and you feel a little reactive, and you feel like tender. Really honor that and just like give yourself what you need. It's not really the time to show up for other people right now. And then we got the 6 of Coins, which is actually having a lot to do with showing up for other people, and the word on the card is generosity. So I'm feeling like a push and pull of like really wanting to connect and really wanting to give and really wanting to be reciprocating, but not really being able to until you've given yourself the attention that you deserve. But that will come where you're feeling a lot more harmonized, where you can have easy flowing connections with people, but not until you focus on what this Scorpio season is trying to bring to light for you, what holds you back, what doesn't allow you to be firmly in the moment without having these it's almost like when something really good comes in, if you're not in a good spot for it, you're not going to be able to receive it properly. So I think that's what this message is really about. Like, give yourself what you need first. Yeah. So this is the Prince of Coins in this deck, but I love this because this is actually really someone who is pretty abundant on their own. It's like that person where you're around them and you just feel lush, like, you know, someone who can really attract and has a bountiful life. And I think everyone is so close to that, but there's just that one little thing that really needs all of our attention and our nurturing and our caring and our healing before we can fully reach it. But that's what we're shifting into. And the first step is looking at what you don't want to look at first and kind of letting it hurt for a second. And then once you move past that, which is not going to be as bad as everyone thinks it is, you know, it's like, it always feels so much more daunting, but then when you get to it, you actually realize it's pretty relieving. So let it happen, because there is an energy of being very abundant and very attractive. And it's coming in, and I think as we move through Scorpio season, we're all going to feel it a little bit more. But there will be that moment that kind of forces you and all of us to look at the thing that we don't want to look at. And there it is with the sort of tension, the conflict, the struggle. It's all happening for all of us, and we're all being each other's mirror for it too, which I find almost a little bit funny, because it's going to feel so personal at the time where you're going to feel like you're alone in it. But whoever you're struggling with, I mean, they're going through it too, just in their own perception. So, you know, there's going to be resistance with people around you and conflict, but it's just there to say something, and you're really not alone. And the 5 of Wands is not, you know, it can be a struggle, but it's nothing too deep. It's nothing too hurtful. It's more like a catalyst. It's more like a situation that arises so that you can finally address it. Finally. And I keep getting a feeling of relief. Ace of Cups. And there's the relief. Because that's when things start to feel good, and that's when you kind of feel like you can start over. You can start from scratch. Because that situation or whatever, it finally came to the surface so that you were finally able to look at it, so that you were finally able to heal it. And now you're good, you know, now, and I don't mean to say that lightly, like, oh, now everything's fine, but really, like, you get the chance to start fresh because you've cleared everything out. Strength. And I think that's what's being sort of gifted to all of us at the moment, is these are tough energies. These are very heavy things that we're all having to look at and sort of move through. But we're all capable of this. And if we can not really go against one another and more so just help each other and be super compassionate and understanding that even though people do shitty things and we hurt each other all the time, more often than not, we're coming from a good place, and it just has everything to do with our perception and every instance that occurred from the time you were born to that very moment that made you that way. And a lot of us have been hurt, you know, or abandoned, or have experienced all levels of trauma. And that's why I bring up therapy, and that can look different for everybody. It doesn't have to be that typical traditional sense. Even just massage therapy, you know, like body work, like moving energy that's so stagnant within you. Any type of that, any support that you can get, any tool that you can use, now is really the time. This season is the time. I'm just gonna pull one more. I don't typically use oracle decks because I feel like I'm so loyal to the ancient wisdom of the tarot. But anytime there's like a big moon situation happening, I like to pull these moon oracle cards. And since we're having a we had our solar, we're having our lunar eclipse, I want to pull one of these cards to just gain a better sense of what that energy is bringing. And it says emotions are running high. And I'm getting that a lot, and that's why I felt like this reading was important, because I don't want anyone to feel like because you may have lashed out or you may have handled a situation poorly, or your trauma came to the surface and it just sort of ruled your words or your actions. Like, it is fixable in this season. You can't come back from those things, especially if it happens with people who are really meant to be like by your side. And that's going to be another revealing thing, is like showing us who really is meant to be by our side and who won't hold our past and our traumas against us, but use them as a key to see us on a much deeper level. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. I hope everyone has a lovely Scorpio season.